Well, hey everybody. Thanks for watching. You're watching MooseTheGimp. I am your host, MooseTheGimp. We're back for another great episode of MooseTheGimp. Now, today is a very special day because after we debuted our special interview series, I wanted to show you something very special that I received in the mail the other day. And I wrote the White House, in particular, First Lady Trump, about some issues that I'm dealing with personally. Mainly the the issue of this so-called opioid epidemic around the country, and people who are on chronic pain medication, like myself, have been adversely affected. And so I asked her about that, and I asked her about some other things, and I was not expecting really anything. I wrote the White House not expecting anything, but 2 months later, I got a very moving note in the mail, and it came from the White House, and this is what was inside. It's from the office of the First Lady, and I'll read it to you. It says, "Thank you for sharing your story with Mrs. Trump. She is saddened to hear about your hardship. May the love and encouragement from your family and your faith give you strength and inspire you to find moments of joy each day. Her thoughts are with you during this difficult time. Sincerely, the office of the First Lady." Now, First Lady Trump obviously did not write this. She may not even have seen it, but her staff did, and I was, not expecting anything. So I was really happy to get something in return. But it was because of a very important issue that I'm dealing with, and this so-called opioid crisis that the country's in. I know we're going through COVID and protests and social justice and these really high-profile, important issues. But there's other things that are going on, and we still need to address them. And I wanted to talk about that today. And so I did some research, and I looked up, this art. I found an article that's very interesting. It's from September 2019, just about 10 months ago, from the Washington Post, a very reputable newspaper. The title of the article is "Opioid Crackdown Forces Pain Patients to Taper Off Drugs They Say They Need," according to the Washington Post. So the article starts with close to 70,000 people in the United States dying every year from drug overdose, and prescription opioids being blamed for helping ignite this national catastrophe. The medical community has grown wary about the use of these painkillers. Now, first of all, this first sentence is not attributed to anybody. This stat, 70,000 people dying every year, being blamed mostly on the prescription drug prescription overdose, being blamed on most of the deaths nationally, and becoming a catastrophe. There's no attribution to that. So that's hyperbole by the Post, which distorts what the issue might be. And the article continues, "Changes in medical guidance covering opioids have left many of these doctors frustrated, confused, and sometimes howling mad. They feel demonized and yanked around." Now, as someone who's in chronic pain, I've had rheumatoid arthritis for over 30 years. I've had multiple joint replacements, seven. Five of my joints are not my own. Most of them have been replaced. My ankle's been reconstructed 3 times. I know what it's like to be on chronic pain meds. And the pain management doctor that I go to, I know this firsthand, has been approached and demonized and yanked around by my insurance company, Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I'll say that flat out. They've been yanked around. Blue Cross has called my doctor and told them, "You need to force Mr. MooseTheGimp to taper off his medication." Now, at some point, about a year ago, I was on fentanyl, the transdermal patch, and oxycodone, the not time release, the immediate release oxycodone. And I was on a fairly high dose, but it was something I needed. And I was on a dose that was helping me. And the doctor has been forcing me to taper off the medication since then. So every time I see him, which is every month, I've been lowered off of my medication, even though my condition has obviously not improved, it's worsened. Rheumatoid arthritis is not a condition that improves at all, it always worsens. And there's been no other drugs that I can take that have helped that. In addition to my neck and nerve pain, which I've never been able to find anything. That's why I'm having revision neck surgery next month. So the article continues after the doctors are yanked around. The post says tapering can cause extreme pain from drug withdrawal, regardless of the underlying ailment. So here's the underlying point of this, that the underlying, regardless of the underlying ailment, tapering causes extreme pain and withdrawal, which means that you don't need to be someone with a medical condition who's taking these medications. You're taking them because you're looking for a high. You're addicted. Whether you take the oxycodone or the fentanyl, you don't really get a high from the patches, but the pills, Vicodin, Percocet, etc., you know the drill. People take those to get that little bump in a high, and it's like a heroin high. It's a mini heroin high. So if it weren't for these drugs, they'd be taking something else. They would be drinking alcohol, they'd be drinking beer, they would be finding other illegal drugs that are on the street. So this is not about chronic pain patients. This is about addiction. That's the point of this, that this is what needs to be addressed, is the patients or people who are coming in looking for meds who want to get high. So the Washington Post continues. The U.S. is now in the midst of a national experiment, as misguided as the one it conducted 20 years ago, when doctors put millions of patients on opioids with little understanding of the consequences, says this lady from the Behavioral Health and Quality Measurement of RTA International, some sort of think tank in North Carolina. She has conducted one of the few national studies of quote-unquote forced tapering of opioid patients, which is me. I've been forced to taper off, and I know many of you have too. I know the people who are watching this have been forced to taper off their medication, which is not right. So after this paragraph, some patients have become what they call, the Post article calls, opioid refugees. I love how everybody's got a nickname, right? Everybody's got some sort of name attached to whatever problem it is. So now people who are being tapered off are becoming opioid refugees. They're traveling long distances to find anyone willing to find a script. Okay, let me stop there. So I've been forced to taper, but never once in my life, since I've been on opioid meds, probably for, I think my first Vicodin ever was, no, I took Darvocet when I was in my teens, in the 80s. Never have I ever, even after I got a driver's license and became an adult, that I drive out of state or somewhere else to find medication. You know why? Because the people who do that are drug addicts. They are not people in chronic pain. They're not people who need the medication to feel better. They need medication or these pills to get high. They're addicts. Opioid refugees are not people in chronic pain. They are drug addicts. We got to be clear about this, okay? I mean, I know there are families out there that fought this battle and are still fighting it. They have loved ones who've died, young people who have died, and that's tragic. It sucks. But we have to call a spade a spade. We got to call a duck a duck. These kids, these people were addicts. I'm sorry, but they weren't, they weren't like victims of some sort of plot by drug companies. They were addicts. If it wasn't for these meds, they would have found some other way to get high. Guaranteed. They would have found another way to get high. It's unfortunate, but that's the issue that needs to be addressed. Addiction, not opioid help for chronic pain. Um, the article continues that still, again, proves my point. As the dosages dropped, according to this forced tapering, the drug deaths did not. So that 70,000 people who died, those numbers didn't go down as a result of this forced tapering, according to the Post. The reason for that is the epidemic, they call it, the Post calls it an epidemic. It mutated. Some people addicted, now this is the first time they call these people addicts. Some people addicted to the opioid high, not the pain relief, the high, turned to street heroin when they couldn't get their pills. I mean, this is the Washington Post, folks. They're calling it. They're calling it. This is exactly what I've been thinking for a long, long time. As the dosages dropped as a result of forced tapering by people like my doctor, the deaths didn't. Because according to the Post, the epidemic, they call it, changed because the people who were addicted to the opioid high, the high, not the pain relief, turned to heroin and street drugs and meth and whatever they could get their hands on. It's a shame, but this is the reality. 4 years ago, in 2016, the CDC, which we all know now from COVID, the CDC with Fauci and all these guys, right? They published a new guideline on the prescribing of opioids for chronic pain. So they issued this new paperwork that they sent all these doctors on how to treat patients like me who are in chronic pain. It proved confusing, according to the Post. The guideline says that doctors should not increase opioid doses to more than something called 90 MME. So 90 milligrams of MME, which stands for morphine milligram equivalents. So basically what they did was they came up with a chart that says, if you take so many Vicodin, it's equal to so many oxycodone. If you take so many oxycodone, it's equal to so many fentanyl. And you can't go over 90, which for somebody like me is nothing. It's peanuts. It's like giving someone who goes for medication for help, who has a hangnail, giving them a filet mignon to somebody like me who's got, most every joint is bone on bone, and the joints that of the joints that I still have, you're giving somebody like me, a slice of white bread with peanut butter on it. It's just not enough. It's just ain't gonna cut it. It's really a shame, but they've used this 90 milligram thing, 90 MME deal as a benchmark, and they just don't. It just doesn't apply to people like myself, and it's really a shame. Now I love we call this we had a nickname for everybody. We call it the opioid refugees. So there's another name that the Post calls this. They call this whole episode opiophobia. We've entered a new era of opiophobia, says a lady named Sally Sattel, a psychiatrist and resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, who is critical of the way that some chronic pain patients have been treated. This is a smart lady, right? This is a smart cookie. She's a psych, and she is a scholar at this institute, and she's calling out this 90 MME deal for people who have chronic pain and the way they're being treated. She's calling this opiophobia. So she's one of our few heroes, maybe, people like myself and like you who deal with chronic pain from back injuries, whatever, arthritis, you know the drill. She's defending us. She calls this opiophobia. So if you are going to a doctor that's forcing you to be tapered off a drug because he or she doesn't care about you, guess what? It's their opiophobia. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to be called out. They don't want to have their practice canceled, and they get that. But this is where we need to change the laws, and we need to change these rules. And this is why I'm trying to bring it back around, like a good journalist does, back to First Lady Trump. Now, First Lady Trump, I think you're pretty cool. I do. I really think you're pretty cool. You know, you've kind of stayed above the fray, so to speak. People criticize you for your accent and whatnot, which is totally unfair. But I think for the most part, you've been a really good first lady. I think you're very caring and you got a big heart. But your position on this opioid deal is wrong, and here's why I'm going to tell you why. Now you, as every first lady does, you came up with a campaign that you're standing behind during your time in the White House. It's called your Be Best campaign, and anybody can find that online. Just type in Trump Be Best, and her web thing will come up if you Google it. And what her agenda is, she names three main points that she wants to go after. Now, every first lady does something like this, and most of the issues are not like super serious, but they try to pick something that's in the public eye, and a charity or issue that needs to be addressed, and it's a good thing. She goes out and talks in addition to her supporting her husband. That's what first ladies do. This is what the job is. But her Be Best campaign, First Lady Trump, is off base. Her three main points of her Be Best campaign. The first one is well-being online, which is another way of saying cyberbullying, which is very interesting because her husband, Donald Trump, is a major league cyber bully, and I can't imagine the pillow talk that those two must have. With him, tweeting at 2 a.m. that, Nancy Pelosi has a horse face and she needs to get a bit in her mouth, and and him joking about it in bed, and First Lady Trump saying, Donald, that's not a nice way to say somebody should improve their face. I can't imagine the pillow talk. I know it's a terrible, terrible impression of First Lady Trump and Donald, but you get the picture, right? So cyberbullying is one of her main points of her Be Best. The second one is safety. That's it, just safety. Now, like what? Like safety going to the neighborhood pool. Make sure you have your armbands that float you, or or like safety not eating, pieces of apple and carrot that are too big. Choke on them. Safety during safe sex. I don't know what that means. Well-being online, comma, safety, and the third being opioid abuse. Now that's like a big one. Opioid abuse. That's like straight out opioid abuse. So this is supposed to be on her radar. This whole issue of making sure people don't get addicted to meds and don't abuse them. But she's not addressing the major issue, which is addiction. It's not about people like myself who need the medication to survive and to feel better every day. They need the drugs to get high. And this is what needs to be addressed. So I'm begging you, I'm asking you, begging you, First Lady Trump, please address this issue immediately. I know that you got a bunch of other stuff you're doing, but you got to change your Be Best campaign. If you're in office next year, you got to change this. We got to change this and make it more accurate to the way it is. We got to deal with addiction as something else, and the opioids are for the people like myself who need them. So, thanks for watching, everybody. You've been watching Moose the Gimp. I am your host, Moose the Gimp, and I just wanted to thank our live studio audience. Whoa, we have a live studio audience. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching. Oh, thanks for being here live in our studio. No, you don't have to continue. You can stop now. Okay, thank you. So, Corden and Colbert, they got, they're from their garage and they're whatever, and they got, people watching them. But I have my own studio audience right in my home. No. Seriously, people, you do not have to clap. I know, it was a great show, I know, but you don't have to watch. You don't have to clap and applaud. Thank you. No, please be quiet. Okay, thank you. That's very good. But hey, thanks for watching, everybody. If you like the show, hit the notification bell at the bottom. please subscribe. We only have a few subscribers right now. We're trying to get that up. We're trying to bump that up. Please do. Even if you don't want to watch, just please subscribe. That would be a huge blessing for me, and I appreciate that. And if you want to reach me, I only have a few subscribers, so if you want to reach me, I'm probably be sure to answer. I got a lot of time on my hands waiting for surgery next month, and you can do so by writing at MooseTheGimp at gmail.com. MooseTheGimp at gmail.com. We have more interviews we got scheduled coming up, big ones. Seriously, we got big ones. Not like my neighbor who plants tomatoes in his garden. We got big interviews coming up. I promise. They may take a little bit of time to figure out, but we got some big ones coming up, I promise. So thanks for watching Moose the Gimp. I'm your host, Moose the Gimp, and we will see you next time, everybody. Yeah.